Hello. Okay. Trap. A psychological thriller written, directed and produced by M. Night Shyamalan. I am a big fan of M. Night Shyamalan. Not every one of his movies have worked for me, but I am a big fan of his style of storytelling. Like, he has a very distinct style, and I just love how he brings his stories, his movies to life. And I'm always looking forward to the next M. Night Shyamalan movie. I absolutely adore the Unbreakable trilogy. So yeah, we've now got Trap. The film stars Josh Hartnett as Cooper Adams, a firefighter and serial killer nicknamed the Butcher, who finds himself trapped within a police blockade while attending a concert with his daughter. And I've just got to start off with saying, I really like this premise. Like, it has a very interesting premise. I was just really intrigued that we are following this serial killer living his normal life, you know, taking his daughter to this concert, having food, having a laugh, and then having that realization that actually the authorities are onto you and you're trapped within this arena. And I just found the ideas, the premise, to be very compelling and interesting, and it's brought to life beautifully by Josh Hartnett's performance. I really liked how he brought this character to life. It's not just another serial killer. Josh Hartnett creates and brings to life something that's very different, very unique. It's his own creation in a way that, yes, it could be inspired by other serial killers, like Norman Bates. There's an element of Norman Bates to the character. But it's Josh Hartnett, and he's doing his own thing. And I just loved when it comes to sort of the nuanced expressions and how he holds himself, and sort of when that realization kicks in that he is being surrounded by these authorities, and he's got this FBI profiler on his tail. And it was, for the most part, it all worked. And the reason why it mostly worked is down to Josh Hartnett. And for me personally, the first two acts of this movie are the strongest. The way in which M. Night Shyamalan introduces us to these characters, and sort of as we are following them going into this arena, going to this concert, I just felt like the energy and the pacing was really well done. Like, the way in which he just throws us into the story. I'm there, I'm locked in, I'm intrigued, I'm interested, and I was on board. And I felt like, yes, the setup and the first two acts are without a doubt the strongest portion of this movie. And I just had a hell of a lot of fun with this movie, and I could sense through Josh Hartnett's performance that he was having a hell of a lot of fun, just down to the way in which he would bring this character to life. And it's through the direction and how this story was brought to life, I could sense that M. Night Shyamalan was having a hell of a lot of fun. Like, for me personally, this is M. Night Shyamalan's funniest movie, even though the humor in places does stick out and doesn't always work. It is quite offbeat and twisted, and I kind of dug it in a weird way. And, you know, this, in many ways, it retains M. Night Shyamalan's distinct style, but it also felt a little different as well. But even though I liked its ideas, I liked the performances, and I liked how M. Night Shyamalan introduces us to these characters and into this story, and that kind of very high energy that we've got for mainly the first two acts, this is a very flawed experience, and the flaws are there throughout, but the film doesn't really start to fall apart for me until the third act. And the one flaw that I felt was running right throughout this film within the narrative was the logic within the story. It's almost like M. Night Shyamalan had this really good, interesting idea to have us follow this serial killer trapped within this concert, but it's almost like he really struggled to find a way of getting these characters to get from A, B, C in a way that is convincing and makes sense and is logical. And unfortunately for me, there are characters' decisions that sort of occurred during this story that at times kind of threw me out because I just didn't quite buy into what was happening. and it does get to a point where perhaps it gets a little bit too silly, and at times I wasn't quite sure if this was intentional or not. Like, there are moments where I feel like he's aware of it through the writing and how the story plays out, and sometimes leaning into it, but then at the same time it kind of takes away from the tension and the suspense as well. And so when it comes to the logic within this story, when it comes to characters' decisions, and how, you know, when it comes to characters getting from point A to point B, unfortunately I just couldn't really buy into it, and it's down to a lot of elements within this story and how the story plays out. For me personally, for this story to have been really effective and for me to have remained immersed with what was going on with these characters and to really buy in to what is actually happening on the screen, I really needed to be convinced, or, you know, believe that this could happen. And that, you know, that everything sort of made sense. Like, you've got this one character who plays a pivotal role in them catching the butcher. And it just didn't work because it is so far out there. Like, really kind of like, it is so far-fetched. Like, it does get, you know, and this is as we sort of get into the third act and as where the film really starts to fall apart. And there's this one moment, for example, with this particular character that I'm talking about. I'm trying to be as vague as possible here, because I want this to be spoiler-free. But we're in this room with our main characters, and this one character is explaining how the authorities have sort of narrowed down where the serial killer is going to be. And in this room, we've got a piano. So for all of those that have already seen the movie, will understand the moment that I'm on about. Now, it's a very silly moment, but it made me laugh, and I had a hell of a lot of fun with this moment. But at the same time, I felt like it just stood out from the overall experience. And that's the only way I can describe it. And even though I didn't buy into these characters' decisions and the characters' involvement within the story, due to sort of how kind of far-fetched it goes, I still couldn't help but have fun in those moments as well. Even though I kind of felt like, yeah, you know, this film has kind of lost me now at this point, I was still having fun. It's what M. Night Shyamalan does with its third act, which, like I said, I really had a hell of a lot of fun with what it was he was doing within that third act. It just doesn't quite fit in to sort of the overall experience. Like, it doesn't quite meld with the rest of the narrative. It's almost like the humour. You know, when I said that this offbeat, twisted humour sticks out and sometimes felt a little bit random, that's how the third act felt. And I liked what it was he was doing within that third act. You know, that kind of the wackiness and the silliness of it. But it just, for me, it just didn't quite work to create an experience that kept me immersed. And a lot of the other flaws that I've mentioned, like the logic within the story and all of that, kind of just really played a big part into that. But I just couldn't help but be intrigued by this entire experience. Like I said, I had fun. And when it comes to the movie's conclusion, I'm not one of those people that felt like it fell flat, but it also wasn't really that satisfying. I'm sort of in the middle. And I think a lot of that is just down to Josh Hartnett and how he brought his character to life. Like, right down to the very last shot of his character, he had me smiling because I dug so much in how he brought this character to life. I just really liked what he was doing. And you could clearly, well, I could anyway, sense how much fun he was having with this character. And so, a bit of a mixed one for me. This entire experience is, even right down to the movie's conclusion. So yeah, enough rambling on from me. A very interesting experience, one that I just couldn't help but be intrigued by what M. Night Shyamalan was attempting to do, even though it didn't really stick the landing and didn't quite work together as one cohesive whole. I just still couldn't help but have a lot of fun with it, and just kind of to a degree, be entertained by what it is that M. Night Shyamalan was doing. Like I said, in places the humour worked, at times it didn't, and at times it sort of stuck out. And the one thing that really kept me locked in, really, to a degree, was Josh Hartnett and it's his performance, and that's what really kept me into this experience. I mean, when it comes to the logic within the story, it has completely lost me, and I was out. It's like, yeah, I'm not buying this at all. That doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense, and yeah, but it was Josh Hartnett and what he was doing with this character, and sort of that the craziness and the wackiness aspect of the story when it gets into the third act, that kept me locked in and entertained, even though as a result it all sort of resulted in sort of a very flawed experience. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Trap, and I will be giving Trap a 6.5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Trap, but what did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next movie review will be for Borderlands. I am a little bit behind this week. There's been a lot of releases that I've been trying to catch up with. I've also got a review planned for part 2 of Rebel Moon, the director's cut. And we've got Alien Romulus coming out on Friday, one of my anticipated movies of the year. I'm a massive fan of the Alien franchise, and I am so freaking excited for that movie. I'm just loving everything that I've seen within the trailers and everything that's coming out of Fede Alvarez's mouth. And so, yeah, a lot of content planned, a lot of reviews planned. And again, thank you so much for watching and connecting with the channel. Thanks to all those most recent subscribers. It means an awful lot. I'm hoping to hit 500 by the end of the year. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do it. But yeah, it'd be nice to hit that milestone by the end of the year. But yeah, again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll be catching you guys soon.